Joining us right now is Jerry Ashton. He is the co-founder and executive vice president of RIP Medical Debt. That's fascinating. Jerry, welcome to the show.
I'm very honored to be here, Cenk. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Well, you've done some amazing things, so it's an honor to have you here. So tell us about what your organization does, because it is astounding.
Well, RIP Medical Debt, or sometimes called RIP Medical Debt, is a 501c3 that was created 4 years ago this month in order to locate donors who would help us go to the debt market to buy medical debt. And once we had the medical debt in our possession, we forgave it.
What?
So, yeah, we forgive it. We're known as predatory givers.
So now, a lot of times people will buy debt, pennies on the dollar, and then use excruciating tactics to make sure
that they get paid.
That they get paid, and they get paid a lot more than what they paid for it. Whereas you guys just get rid of the debt. You say, okay, you're free to go. So,
well, I was listening to your show a little bit earlier, and you mentioned a lady, a fellow whose mother was going through trials and tribulations with breast cancer. And the real concern wasn't really the fight with cancer, but the devastation that would follow when the medical bill showed up. So as a former bill collector, in fact, 40 years of bill collecting this year, I was always anti-abusive techniques or coercive techniques to get people to pay. And I was always a rebel in my own industry. Now I became semi-retired, and Craig Antico, my co-partner and CEO, we decided as rebels in our world to turn the tables. So now what we do is we get to call people up, or we get to write them letters and let them know that that bill will no longer be on their credit report, no longer be owed.
All right, that's amazing. And so it makes sense that you're at Rebel headquarters then, being the rebels that you are. So let me understand the process better, because it's really interesting. So first of all, who is actually paying the debts?
Well, the good news is we have donors. If it weren't for the donors, we wouldn't have anything to do. Now, donors show up because of people like you, people that will give us an opportunity to be shown. If people don't know about you, they can't do anything about you. So what happens is that our approach is a very simple one. It's amazing what a penny can do. 1 penny will buy $1 worth of debt. $10, do the math. And what's interesting for us is that every one of these pennies and every one of these dollars really count. And then the big donors have come in, and organizations and groups, and said, look, we want to do more than that. We want to run a campaign. So for about $15,000, we're able to abolish $1 million worth of medical debt. That's what we do.
So wait, let me understand that better. Is it because these debts are hard to collect, that you could actually go and literally like say, okay, this person owes $100, but I'm going to give you $1, and then the people go, oh, okay, at least I get $1, and then they give you the debt to collect?
Well, here's the terrible scenario. First of all, you get sick. You go to the hospital treats you, you go home. At the time that you're treated, you might even have insurance. You might have money in the bank. So you wouldn't qualify for their charity. So what happens is that when they start calling you and they can't get you to pay, or at least not pay the full amount, they then use third-party collection agencies. They'll do that for close to a year or so. When the collection agencies don't collect the money, they are then approached by debt buyers who will buy debt in bulk. So if they walk into a hospital and say, I see you have $100 million worth of unpaid bills there. I'll give you $1 million cash. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're the money guy in a hospital, that $1 million is going to take care of payroll, it's going to buy some equipment. You look at $100 million of pain that's sitting out there, $1 million that's going to help you. It's very tempting. And about 30% of all hospitals will sell their debt. Now, once that debt is in the hands of the debt buyer, it becomes exactly as you said. Months, years of attempts to collect on that debt. And they will do so even past the statute of limitations, depending on the state. because their job is to make money. They bought that debt, and if they bought that $5,000 bill for $50, they're not going to call you up and ask for $55 to make a profit. They want the full $5,000. So when we go into the debt market, we compete with collection agencies or people in that world, so that when we buy it, we let them know very clearly. Once we have that in our hands, we're eliminating that debt. Now, why are we doing that? For the same reason that that person was worried about his mother. 15 million people go insolvent every year. 60% because of medical debt. Another 60% go bankrupt. And of the ones who go bankrupt, 70% of these people had insurance. So obviously there's something deeply wrong with the system, because we're sweeping up after the parade, and it's a terrible parade. It's got to stop.
So I want to give people the website here, because I want to make sure they've got it, and then explain this concept one more time real quick. So it's ripmedicaldebt.org, ripmedicaldebt.org, and if you want to donate, ripmedicaldebt.org/donate. So if you give $100, they can use that to wipe out $10,000 worth of debt. That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so now let's talk about the people on the receiving end. How do you pick them, and then how do you tell them the news?
The toughest part of our job is reading the emails and the letters that come into us begging for help. We buy in bulk just like a debt buyer does. So we buy millions of dollars at a time. We can't help individuals. So I want your viewer to realize that if they have a particular problem, at this moment, we can't help them. We're intending to in the future. We've got over 5,000 mails, 5,000 letters from people saying, please help me. We're aggregating those. Now, what was your question?
Yeah, so that's how you find them, right? Because you bought them in bulk, so those are the guys that whose debts are going to be forgiven. Then the second part of the question was, how do you let them know, and what's their reaction?
Well, first of all, even then they have to qualify. We don't just take the debt and forgive it. What we do is we run it through some metrics, just like a hospital would. But in our case, they have to be 2 times the poverty level or below. They have to be insolvent, meaning that their assets are less than what they owe, or they're in hardship. And hardship, that's shown to be putting more than 5% out-of-pocket cash for medical bills of your annual income. Now, once we qualified them, the letter goes out. And depending on who the sponsor is, it could be a radio station, a TV station, it could be the Fireflies, a baseball team, it could be a brewing company in Wyoming that's going to donate $300,000 to us to get rid of $30 million worth of debt. When those letters land, you can imagine what people think. They love it. We get wonderful stories about that.
Yeah, it's like Santa Claus coming in the middle of the year going, congrats, you don't have that hanging over your head anymore, your debt's gone.
And it's off their credit report. The most important thing about it is that credit reports linger on. Even though you can't pay, you're paying more for credit cards. You may not get that job. You may not rent that apartment, all because of an illness. Do you understand that? All of your viewers right now, they're one illness, one accident away from being wiped out financially.
This system is so brutal. We shouldn't need an organization like yours. We should have Medicare for all. We should actually give health care to our citizens. But
from your list to getting rid of my job, may it happen.
Yeah. Same thing as Wolfpack. Wolfpack wants to get money out of politics. We want to make sure that we go, make sure that the organization doesn't exist after we accomplish our mission, right?
Best way to work yourself out of a job.
That's right. One last quick thing. I do want to, there's a lot of times we have to, unfortunately, tell people about things that corporations are doing wrong. But I do want to give credit where credit is due. Can you just tell us a couple of your bigger donors that have done good work here?
Well, let me see. NBC donated $150,000 in order to have their 11 stations owned across the country give away, help us abolish $15 million worth of debt. We have a major donor in Florida who's planning to make a big name and splash, not for himself, but to draw attention to this travesty called medical debt, and he will donate $1.4 million before this year is out.
Wow.
That's $140 million.
Yes.
Think of the number of, so far, we've abolished $120 million worth of debt.
Wow.
With one person, it'll be 140 million more.
Okay, and you could do your part as well and feel great about it. All right, Jerry, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And thank you for setting this group up, doing God's work. We appreciate it.